plan. Was there anyone here who wasn't in my previous session? Anyone? Welcome, Richard. Nice. Awesome. You know all this stuff. Good. Very good. Then in the previous session, we covered, well, what is an implementation guide? What does it mean to publish an implementation guide? What was the life cycle of an implementation guide? And we made a bunch of FHIR resources. Now that we have that, it's time to build our documentation around it. I'm going to do two things. First, the documenting, we're going to do it with the IG Publisher and with Simplifier. And we're going to start with the IG Publisher. I think it's going to be fun because if we all run that and all try to download the IG Publisher at the same time over the Wi-Fi, we'll see how that responds. Probably gets very slow. Luckily, I have a copy somewhere locally, so the demo will go on. And then once we have made, well, basically 2 implementation guides in 2 different ways, we're going to make sure that it's available on the internet and that we also make that package with the machine readable artifacts available in the FHIR package registry because that's what everyone needs. So let's get started. The use case again, we have cowboy hats. We've made a bunch of resources, and again, in Whova are also the links for this session are the links that you need to download the tools that we're going to use and also find this project with all the finished resources. Yeah. Good. How to make an implementation guide. We have 2 options again, just like before the break. IG Publisher, it's a command line tool. Again, we're going to use Visual Studio Code to make some changes. It's free. And then we have Simplifier.net, which I work on. It's a FHIR tool. It has a web-based visual editor for implementation guides and also a wizard to publish your FHIR package to the registry. It's licensed, but your first project is free. You can play around with a lot of stuff there. So please do that during this meeting. You can install the IG Publisher, you can create a Simplifier account, create your own project, and then I'm going to explain to you how to use that. This is what we're going to do, and we'll start with the IG Publisher part. And I'll go back to the, let's see, the command line tool. Yeah, so just to recap what we have in our project now, we have in our input folder, we have those fish files. We have the other 2 resources that I made with Forge. And when we run Sushi, it puts all of that in Sushi, in fish generated, including the patient that was generated in the patient here. And when we run the IG Publisher, it should be able to take all of that and put that into an implementation guide. What we also see, the scripts that I mentioned before, like the Gen 1 script and the update publisher. Actually, there's the bot version is for Windows, and the SH shell version is for Mac or Linux. And that's, for me, the most easy way to use the IG Publisher. There's also a way to download the right to IG Publisher from somewhere. But if you just run Sushi in it, it will get the scripts for you. And if you run these scripts, you will get the IG Publisher. So what you first do is update Publisher. Actually, I can show you what happens if you directly say Gen 1s. Gen 1s implies that there is also a gen continuously. I think it exists somewhere, but not here. But Gen 1s just makes an implementation guide once. If you have the continuous generation, then it will monitor your folder for every change, and it will keep generating your guide. But that's not what we're going to do. We're just going to generate it once. But now it's going to be mad at us because we don't have the IG Publisher yet, the tool, which is a Java tool. So we're going to run the other script, which is called update publisher. And it tells me, hey, you don't have the input cache folder here. Do you want me to create it? Yes, please. I have not found the IG Publisher in there. Do you want me to download it? This is where I'm going to run yes. And we'll see how fast it goes on the Wi-Fi, especially if you also do this. It's not too bad, if this is all. So it's going to download the IG Publisher, which is that tool to generate the implementation guide. And it's going to put that in the folder locally. Yep, oh, that was everything. Great. Those scripts that we saw before that we already had, it can also update with the latest. I always say yes, because you never know if something has changed. So 3. Now we also have an input cache folder in there with the publisher.jar. So now we should be able to run the script. Before that was mad at us, the Gen 1s. And this is now going to run Sushi again, even though we did that already, but it's just to be sure, it's going to run Sushi within the IG Publisher, and it's going to download all the dependencies. It's probably going to be an issue because I forgot something before the break. Yeah, there we go. Cannot find or generate snapshot for base definition US core. Yeah, because I did mention this before, but I didn't do it. That also in FHIR, there's a different way to tell FHIR what my dependencies are. And that was in the configuration file that we may have seen at the beginning, which is called sushi-config. Can I collapse this? Yeah. So the sushi-config has the stuff that we filled in during the wizard about our implementation guide. But there's more in there, including what the dependencies are of our implementation guide. And so here I need to set that in a different way than in Forge. So here, just going to set that to the same version of US core that we installed in Forge. Save that and run the IG Publisher again. It's going to run Sushi again. Boom, 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 boom. Sushi is happy. Can't even see the fish joke, but it's there. And what it should do now is generate a static website for us with documentation for all our different resources. And also, if we look at the FHIR folder, in the input folder, we can see that there was already, I'm just going to turn Forge off for a moment. Yeah. In the input folder, there was already page content for the index.md. So this is a markdown file. Markdown is just a text format to write, make some markup for your page. So the hash Minneapolis Cowboy is a header with Minneapolis Cowboy, and then feel free to modify this index page. So that's a page that's going to end up in our implementation guide. Let's see where the IG Publisher is. Oh, it just finished. So if we look at this folder on disk, that's a bit small. I think this is as big as I can make it for some reason. But we have way more stuff now in our folder, including an input cache folder, which we can safely, well, we've seen what was in there. Temp folders, template folders. But in the output folder, there's a whole bunch of files. But if we search carefully for the index.html, which is normally the beginning of a website, and we open that in the browser, we see that we actually have built a little US core-like implementation guide for our Minneapolis Cowboy. This is the text that we just saw in the little index.markdown file. Feel free to modify this index page with your own awesome content. So we know how to get something there. And then we can also see that in the artifact section, it already made a page for us for every individual resource that we had in our implementation guide, like the terminology resources here, value set and code system, the example patient, John Wayne, the extension, and the resource profile. So let's look at our cowboy. And just like we looked at US core patient before, this is the description. It has the nice overview of the resource and all the XML and the JSON. So this is how you make your implementation guide with the IG Publisher. And now you can add more pages in there, or you can add more content in the resource definitions. So that's already the IG Publisher part. And then for the rest, I want to focus on the simplifier side. So let's see. I'm just gonna clean this folder up a bit because we made a lot of stuff for the IG Publisher. Just gonna remove all the output and input cache, and well, maybe input cache can stay. I don't know. I'm just gonna remove this because we don't need to push that to Simplifier. But Simplifier, as I said, the editing that we did now for the implementation guide is very text-based, but it works well. As you see, it looks a lot like the US core one. But we can go to Simplifier and have a bit more graphical experience, just like Forge is a bit more user interface focused. So this is simplifier.net. It has a kind of dual role. It's a collaboration platform where you can build implementation guides and packages with your colleagues, privately or publicly. But it's also the backend for the FHIR package registry. So it has access to all the FHIR content in the world and make that available to the registry.fhir.org. And if you create an account here, you can go to your portal. So who has a Simplifier account already created? Yeah, great. If you go to simplifier.net, there's just a sign up button on the top and you can create your free account. You can get access to one project in there. So create your project that you want to make. I think I will name this Minneapolis Cowboy, as we did before. Sadly, there is no ChatGPT autocomplete here, so our cowboy project. I'm gonna set the FHIR version to FHIR R4, say that this is a test project, so no one should take it too seriously. The scope is the US and it's gonna be public. So once I do that, I get an empty FHIR project. It's much like a GitHub repository, so just a place to put your FHIR resources, but it's really FHIR specific. So we have nice visualizations of all the resources and buttons to create your implementation guide and such. So what I'm going to do is link this up to my Forge, to my Forge project. So when I open Forge again, oh, it's sleeping here. I'll open up the same project in Forge. So it's still here in my recent projects, Minneapolis Cowboy. And there is a button here to link my project to an existing, my local project to an existing project on Simplifier. So if I hit link, since I'm already logged in with my Simplifier account, it knows which projects I have access to. I have way too many projects. That's not a problem you will have. Probably you will have like one or a few there. And I need to find the Minneapolis Cowboy project in here. Figure out how it's sorted. Yeah, there we go. So this local folder, I'm connecting that to this project online on Simplifier. And when I do the link here, it will already synchronize for me between these two, the local folder and the online folder. There's a few files that don't come along to online, but they are available now. So when I go back to the project here on Simplifier, first we had no resources, and now we have all the resources that we've seen before. So profile, value set, code system, extension, and also the example patient in here. So when we go to profiles and click on the cowboy, you can see that just like the IG Publisher, Simplifier gives you a lot of views. There's one error here, which is very similar to what we saw in the IG Publisher before. I cannot find US core. So that clearly means that we have not set our dependencies yet. So the dependencies are actually transferred here, I think. Let me make sure that happens. I'll take the one from locally, thank you. Let's see. Yeah, so our dependencies, you see US core has been brought here. I just need to tell Simplifier to actually use them, which I do with the button here and then hit restore. At some point we'll automate that for you, but now you see that we have all the dependencies set, the US core with all the other dependencies, the recursive dependencies too, that US core has. Going back to the patient cowboy profile, our error is gone. And we have all the different views that you expect from a FHIR resource. So there's the snapshot view, which is the full resulting data model of core FHIR patient, US core patient on top, and our cowboy patient on top. That's the full resulting data model. And then there's the differential with only the things that we have changed compared to the US core data model. So we've stricken out that photo, and we've added that extension, favorite cowboy hat, and made that mandatory. And the hybrid is just, well, a hybrid of the two of them. So you can see in bold what we've changed. And there's many different views, like XML, JSON, it all doesn't matter, and the relationships to other resources within this project. So you have kind of a graph of all the resources on Simplifier. So that's, now we have it online on Simplifier, and we can actually start building an implementation guide. So when I go to the Guides tab here, I can hit Create. Let's say we call this Minneapolis Cowboy Implementation Guide, and we keep that public. And now we already have a starter for an implementation guide. Again, we can type Markdown here, just like we saw with the IG Publisher. So I can just say, hey, welcome to my Cowboy Implementation Guide. Always add a emoji. Very good. So now we already have a very simple implementation guide. And this is already live on Simplifier now. So this you can just go to Simplifier and share this link with your colleagues, and they can look at the implementation guide. So that's really easy and quick to see what it looks like. There's different visualizations. So we can choose in the settings here for our implementation guide editor what theme we want to use. So when we go to the settings and then the style section here, currently we're using this tree table where we have the navigation on the left. But I can also use one that looks a bit more like the HL7 one. And again, look at the preview here. Oh yeah, that's a bit more with the horizontal menu, so that's more how we expect it maybe. And then if we want to add more pages, we can just create a new folder here and say, okay, our FHIR artifacts go here. And then maybe I want to make a page about, so here on the root page, I will do a nice index from here, with all the pages under here. There's nothing yet. So let's make a page for our cowboy profile here. So I'll call this my cowboy profile page. And then I start with this blank screen, but we luckily have, again, some snippets to help you get started. So you hit the little plus button here, and then we can say, okay, take a page starter for a profile. And then we already have a nice page describing all kind of things for a resource, just not our profile resource. So there's an instruction here that we need to change the parameter canonical here to the resource that we want to describe, which I'm going to do. So the canonical for our cowboy, just need to look that up. I can do it here, or I can do it on Simplifier. Maybe that's probably even easier. Where's my project? The profile, cowboy profile. So this is the canonical URL for a cowboy. Let's copy that. Go back to my editor. And now, if I update that here, I should have a page documenting my cowboy. Let's have a look what it looks like live. So we have a new folder in the menu here with two, like the root and then a cowboy profile. And our cowboy profile has a little metadata table and all the different views that we saw in here, the tree view, XML, JSON, detailed views, etc. And yeah, we can add other tables depending on what's in our current resource. So yeah, that's how to add an implementation guide on Simplifier. I've already started this a bit more in our Dallas Cowboy project. So this is the link If you go to Whova, you can find the link for this project. If you go to the guide here and look at its end result, this is something you can make out of it. I added another layer of a lot of ChatGPT code descriptions. But yeah, you can add all the resources that you want here and add some nice documentations, add images. And just it's a nice what you see is what you get editor. So anytime you edit something here on the left, you can directly see live what it looks like. So this is our cowboy profile page. And then it will, whenever you hit Control Enter or like the little refresh button here, our page automatically updates. So that's it for building an implementation guide. Anyone followed along and built an implementation guide with Simplifier? Oh, we got one. Well done. You're winning a prize. So we created documentation with both of them. I think we probably did all of this. What you can do is also just go to my project, the Dallas Cowboy project, and export the entire project, import it into your project so you have something to work with. And you can see what it looks like. I think the final thing I want to do is, because when we go back to that cycle from earlier, we've basically done the building the resources, we built the documentation, but we have not published anything yet. We have not made anything available to the world in a production fashion. So for this, I want to introduce you to the FHIR package system. You've seen the package name, so HL7.FHIR.US core, for example. But any tool that gets anything like the IG Publisher or Forge, if they use any other FHIR resources or any FHIR server, they want to connect to the FHIR package registry because that's where all the resources live. And the FHIR package registry has a nice interface, and it's called registry.phir.org. It has a beautiful sad dog on the front, because I'm not sure why it's sad, actually. It should be happy. It can find all the packages. So if we search here for us.core, we should find US core implementation guide here. So this is, again, a human-facing interface on top of this. There is an API behind this that all the tools use. But if it is not in here, people cannot find it. So that's really important to get your package into here. This is a really useful interface also to start with. If you're building an implementation guide and you want to know, gee, did someone already do something with, let's say, vaccines? You can just search this and you will find, well, that the Germans have done something around COVID-19 with this. IPS apparently has some vaccine-related resources in there. So this is a great way to find any prior art within the FHIR community. Okay, I hope I made the point clear that you want to get in there. How do you get in? Well, your package needs to be online somewhere. It needs to, there's this file here on GitHub that is called package feeds. And there's different feeds in there. I'm not sure if anyone remembers RSS feeds, but it's basically feeds like that. Your package needs to be listed in that. And as long as you're in there, it will be picked up by Simplifier and will be made available to the registry.phir.org. That's if you want to do it yourself. So it's fully open and free to do that. Another way to get in there is just publish via the HL7 balloting system. So if you work on US core or within DaVinci or something, it will automatically get into the package registry once you ballot. Or you can publish via Simplifier. So I'll show you how to do that via Simplifier, and that's our last little demo that I want to do. Once we have made a little specification, so on Simplifier, I have my Minneapolis Cowboy project. We have a bunch of resources in here, and we want to make those available. We can just go to the Packages tab here and start to create a new package. So again, we have a wizard for that. We're going to give that package a name. So in this case, we decided on acme.minneapolis.cowboy. And we can create a new package for that. We give it the version number. I think we decided before on 0.1.0. The author needs to be Acme Corp, not me personally. You can give it some release notes. So yay, first release of our cowboy package. Again, emojis, something like that. Yeah. There's some more settings, but we don't need those. We can just hit publish now, and as easy as that, we have now made a FHIR package. And the only thing that a FHIR package does is it takes your project in this moment of time, it makes a fancy zip file out of it with all the resources in JSON in there. And that's kind of a snapshot in time that people can use to. That's a really stable building block. So anyone who will use in the future acme.minneapolis.cowboy 0.1.0 will always get the same version. This package will always be around. It will never be deleted. It's always the same. It will never be changed. So it's a stable building block, just like we built on top of US Core 6.1.0. Other people can now build on this or use it in a server, or you can mandate it in regulation or these kind of things. And when we look into this in the files, we'll just see all the resources that we had before in our project. And we will see that it depends on US Core and all the other packages that US Core depends on. And if we go to registry.fhir.org now, we will not find it yet, because that thing has a synchronization time of 6 hours or something. But if you go later, tomorrow, for example, it will be in there, and you can use it in any other project. Yeah, so now coming back to the requirements that we've set in the beginning. Oh, yeah, okay. I'll come back to the other one in a minute. The requirements that we set in the beginning were, should have put that here. Okay. FHIR Implementation Guide is a bunch of resources. Okay, we made a bunch of resources. It's a website that documents that. I've shown you 2 ways to make that that human readable website that documents your implementation guide, your specification. And then we published it. So we made it available on the internet. The implementation guide has a version. And we made the package available in the FHIR package registry. So that's how easy it is to make your implementation guide. At least I skipped over a few things maybe, but yeah. One more thing that I want to tell you before maybe it all becomes too much. There's another thing that is similar to the package registry that you may have heard of or that you may encounter, and that's called the FHIR Implementation Guide registry. So it's also a registry, but this is a much more hand-curated list meant for humans to find implementation guides. So you can get your specification in here. Again, it's just a little file on GitHub that you need to edit. So if you have a nice implementation guide, you're proud of it, you want to get it into this one too, so people can find it, you just scroll to the bottom of the page here. And there's instructions here on how to get into that. But this is completely different from the package registry, and it's not something that any tool will read, or also not something that you automatically get into when you publish a package. Yeah, I think that's basically it. I think we have now 15 minutes left, so I probably want to leave some room for you to actually do this and play around with it. So I guess I'll switch it back to the slide with the code along. Again, go to the Hoover session description. If you need the links for any of this, feel free to play around with this. And in the meantime, perhaps we can also answer questions if there's any at this point. Anyone questions? Yeah.
So for dependencies, would you recommend to pin the versions? And like this is like almost the same problem as Python. Like you have all these dependencies, they dynamically change and they might break your implementation guide. What would you recommend? What's the best practice?
Yeah, great question. So I was a bit soft, so maybe I should repeat it. For dependencies, do you recommend to pin the versions, right? Actually, FHIR is quite specific on that. So the FHIR package system is inspired by NPM, but it's not completely free. You can do anything that NPM does or another software system does. You can, when you set a dependency, it's basically always direct version dependency. So you really specify, I want to depend on this version of US Core. The only thing that you can do is you say, I want to depend on US Core 6.1.x, or star, I guess, in practice. That's the only freedom we allow you. So if there's a new patch version of US Core, where they just say, oh, we just made some typo fixes or something, it's all backwards compatible, then you can automatically upgrade to the newer version. All the other dependencies are completely fixed. Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe a follow-up question is that how would you safely update? Like, let's say the US Core tomorrow release 7.0. How would you safely update without breaking anything in your implementation guide?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not sure if I have a great answer. The answer I can give you is just look at the differences. Like, they probably have release notes. Some guides have like this, these are the changes that we made. And other than that, make sure that you have enough test cases within your own project. Update the dependency, run the validation. Both the IG Publisher and Simplifier do a lot of validation. And then if anything breaks, you need to make sure that you fix it. So there's not a lot of magic going on there. It's basically making sure that you have all the test cases and make sure that the use case still works.
Yeah, kind of following up on that. Are there any recommendations or best practices around kind of versioning your IG and when you can safely kind of update dependencies? So maybe, have you heard of anybody, applying a rule, we're not going to update dependency versions on patch versions, we'll wait for minor versions, that sort of thing? Yeah.
I think that there probably are some recommendations indeed. Well, in general, I'm not sure how familiar you are with semantic versioning itself, quite a bit. I'll just recap it for others. Like, semantic versioning has like these 3 version numbers, and they all mean something. Like the smallest one is a patch version. If you update that, you say, okay, I just made non-consequential changes, all backwards compatible. If you make the minor version upgrade, the middle one, you say, okay, we added some extra functionality, but it's still backwards compatible in general. And the other one, the major version number will indicate, well, stuff will break, probably. I don't have a clear list of like, if you make this change, then it's not backwards compatible anymore. We can probably rattle some off, I guess, if you change cardinality, if you make something mandatory. So if you introduce a new element, for example, and you want to make sure that you make no breaking changes, you have to make it optional. If you make it mandatory, that will definitely break something. Or if you remove an element that people could previously send. If you change your required value set binding, that will make breaking changes. But again, no magic list for you, but yeah.
It's also fair to say that the community here around us is still learning about this, right? We have recent discussions, actually it's going on right now, about versioning of some of the Da Vinci implementation guides versus different versions of US Core. And Lloyd McKenzie, who is doing the work there, has written a document about how they will go about versioning of Da Vinci. So that's an interesting read that I can pass on to you or to anyone else. And they are experimenting, and we actually as a community are experimenting with, okay, so maybe we'll have in that new package different kind of profiles or different kind of ways to deal with it. So if we have stuff breaking, we might actually assign a new canonical, a new ID to it. So it's totally clear that it's a different profile. And we might have profiles that haven't changed at all, so they keep the same name, and they, we can actually indicate, maybe that's a thing that's being experimented with. We can indicate that if you were compliant with the old version, with version 3, you're also compliant with version 6, for example. And then there is a transitional thing in between where we say, well, we did change this a bit. But, for example, we added a different coding system, a different value set. So if in this transitional phase for the new version of this IG, you'll send both codes, you'll be okay. So there is no magic answer yet, and this is full in experimentation. So if you're interested in this, this is the right moment actually, because this is currently going on in DaVinci.
Yeah. There's also, in the FHIR spec, FHIR packages are defined on the packages page. And there is, when you go to the version, a link to FHIR versioning. See FHIR versioning for how semantic versioning works with standards. And there are some comments here like, this is how we change our FHIR version numbers and SemFHIR numbers. Interesting note that I recently encountered here is that FHIR allows apparently for breaking changes when you change the minor version of a resource. If you want to do that in package, that's up to you, but yeah.
Let's use SemFHIR but not follow it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure if I agree with that. Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't think I can put my voice loud enough.
Yeah. At home.
Oh, okay.
Or later if you want.
Okay.
Recording, yeah.
Does the Forge authoring tool or Simplifier registry itself support the package scope extension?
Package scope extension. Can you help me? The package scope extension?
Like an NPM scope.
Oh, yeah. I know what you mean now. So this is when you have a package name that is basically Word, and then a package name. No, that's something that is generally not supported in the FHIR package spec. Yeah. Or right now. I know that someone you may well know, Brian Caney, has a talk later this week on using FHIR publishing within a firewalled setting, like in a commercial enterprise setting. And this is something that he's definitely looking at, how to integrate this with local NPM package servers that you may already have, like Artifactory or something. And for that, scopes are apparently useful. So do show up for the talk for your boss. Okay.
Sorry, maybe this question is not directly related, but somehow related.
Yeah.
So the question is, what should go into a FHIR IG? And then I could give you like a very specific example. So imagine, like we have a team of engineers we work with, and then they have enums in their code, right? And then that enum translates directly to a code system. But the problem is that, when we ask them to move that into Verily FHIR IG, one main problem is that, that like all this, friction of, releasing a FHIR IG and then make it available to programmers. They say that, what, no, it's just easier. I'll define an enum, put in the code, move on. So what would you recommend? Like, what's the best practice in that area?
Yeah, I think it's not a FHIR-specific problem, right? It's just a question, when is interoperability useful? When should someone else care about your interface? If you're just going to use this on your own laptop, like no one else needs to know what you're doing, which codes you're using. If you're just using this within your organization and they all have access to the code and that's where they read the code, why document it in a FHIR IG? If at any point you think someone else should also implement this, or you're requesting someone else to deliver the data that your system is going to process, you probably want to define your API, and the data model, how you want to get that data and what it needs to look like. So yeah, if it's only those engineers that are going to look at it, they're probably right in keeping it in enum. But if they then later start complaining, like, why is this customer not delivering the data according to the codes that we defined in our code that they cannot access, then yeah, they should live with that. Yeah. I think anything to add from an engineering perspective? Yeah.
No, that's true. I mean, that's the whole point of publishing. Is if the cost of it's always cheaper to not follow a standard and do it exactly according to the use case you have at hand. So this is always about, oh, but I need to exchange data. And it's not only a technical thing, right? This is about coordinating use case with other parties that will receive your data. So I think your answer is absolutely right. Depending on the scope of what you want to communicate, you need to standardize, and that's a costly thing. And if you don't need that, don't do it.
Yeah. Was there an addition? Or? Yeah. Sorry, maybe the other side.
I was wondering about any gaps between like the structure definition or element definition, like JSON like the definition of the resource and fish. Like are there fields that don't convert to fish or? Are there gaps, and how do you see the mapping?
Yeah, I don't think there are gaps necessarily. I think everything you can express in JSON or XML, they're fully exchangeable. You can express in FHIR because they did a clever trick that you can always, from FHIR, you can always go back to kind of writing directly how it's supposed to look in JSON. I think they have a kind of way out where you can just directly go into the elements and give the values for the elements that you know are in the JSON. So yeah, that way they're automatically always compatible with the JSON. I think they have their own more useful syntax for many of those things. And I think what we discussed before, I'm not sure if that was publicly, but to what extent are they completely compatible? Like there is stuff you can do in FHIR, like put comments in your code file, or you can make in FHIR you can make the kind of rules or patterns. Like every time I say this, kind of functions. If to make it easier to add an entire extension or to add an address with a few parameters or something in many different places, you can make a function within FHIR. That's stuff that doesn't remain when you go into JSON, which is fine if you're always only going one direction. But yeah, if you want to do bidirectional syncing, it's not. Yeah. Well, if nothing else, then we should probably call it here.
Yeah. I'll give you an extra 3 minutes for your break.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you very much.